Welcome to the Dream 100 Show, the epicenter of influence, collaboration, and exponential growth. You're about to discover the power of relationships. Dream 100 relationships. And you're one relationship away from a totally different business and life. This is your host, Michael Tesner.
Show me the data. One of my favorite movies was Jerry Maguire, where he's screaming, "Show me the money," to try and salvage that last client account. Topic of today's episode of the Dream 100 Show is about showing me the data. And more importantly, showing yourself the data and having your team showing you the data. And this concept and this kind of mode of thinking has really been percolating in my mind over the last couple of months. As of recording, and if you know anything about when I publish these, I tend to record these a day or two before they get released. And I do that because there's so many things that are changing all day, every day. So at the time of recording, a couple of days ago, the US and global stock markets took an absolute nosedive. They were covered a little bit today. There's this blanketed aspect of fear. Now, if you were to ask me, and I'm not an economist, do you think we're in a recession? Like, are the signs pointing to that? I wrote the book a couple of years ago, Recession Marketing, and I'm updating it as we speak. And yes, I believe that we're going to be in for some kind of rough waters. You can't control any of that. I can't control the global economies. I can only control how I anticipate things, how I react to things, what I'm able to do, what plans I put into place, what actions. And what I've been realizing on a lot of the strategy calls that I do, so our sales process at the Dream 100 is a two-step sales process. So the first one is a basic discovery call where we're trying to make sure that you are a fit for what we do. And we have 3 distinctly different programs of different price points. The second call is more of a strategy call where I kind of unveil the curtain and show you this is how we're going to make you more money, and here's the timeline. Now, the downside to that particular timeline is that if it's the traditional Dream 100 methodology framework, the way that I teach it to you, that timeline is going to be 6 to 12 months or longer, to where you're going to have to invest money before you start to see a return. And what ends up happening with that is that most people get back into their fear mindset, a scarcity mindset. They start panicking. They look at the economy and say, well, what if the economy doesn't recover? And they start playing what I would deem a small game. I can tell you from personal experience, I tend to try and do the exact opposite. When I start to see that I'm in scarcity mindset, scarcity way of thinking, I dig in and I make decisions quicker, and I make decisions typically with my checkbook, credit cards. I can't tell you the last time I've written a check. And I literally saw myself getting into this exact mindset last week. That, oh my gosh, everything's crashing. Here we go. This is the big collapse. I need to start pulling back on a few things. And then I paused. And I said I would be a complete hypocrite if I did the opposite of what I teach. And the opposite would be to pull back. What I teach is that this is the best time to put 2 feet on the gas. When people are nervous and afraid, this is when you can get better ad costs because people stop spending and investing. And I did just that. I dropped, I don't know, what was it? $30,000, $40,000 on some higher level training, masterminds, coaching, consulting, literally just in the last week. Not small amounts of money, like not $500 here and there. But I know that when I look at it from a data standpoint, that it's going to pan out. And I know that if I play the long game, things are going to pan out. And that brought me to this concept of show me the data. When I look at any type of marketing and any type of business, the owner of a business tends to lose sleep at night because they don't have a pulse on how things are going. And I've had this exact thing happen to me a dozen times over the last 6 months, So I'm not going to tell you that I'm absolutely perfect when it comes to having all this stuff dialed in. I can tell you that I'm better than almost everyone, but I can tell you that there are definitely days where I'm like, I don't have a pulse on how XYZ is going. The way that you can get yourself to a place where you can make smarter business decisions, smarter marketing decisions, being in a place of abundance rather than scarcity is when you can see the data. And if you boil this data down to the most basic of levels, like marketing 101, very, very simple. And you can put this on a simple Excel sheet. You can put it in Google Sheets, whatever is easiest for you. Column 1 is going to be the date. Column number 2 is going to vary based on your business. But that could be number of, I'll give you some examples. So let's say that you are in the service industry, whether that's marketing services, for example, that's landscaping, flooring, like you're getting leads. Anyone that's raising their hand and saying, I'm interested, tell me more, that would go in the second column. Now, if you're not in that type of industry, for example, e-commerce, maybe you're listing out the website visitors that came to your website and stayed for at least 30 seconds. This column needs to have a little bit of cleansing to it so that you're not simply only looking at the raw data, but you're looking at a little bit of cleansed data. So if you wanted to even go more granular, you could say everyone that raised their hand would be this column right after the date. The next column would be some scrub data. And by scrubbed, all that I'm looking for you to do is to remove anyone that's trying to sell you stuff, people that are looking to apply for a job, or obvious spam leads, spam website visitors, for example. So I cleanse that stuff out so that I'm looking at a little bit of cleaner data. Now, if you want, for a month, maybe you list out, okay, great, our raw leads were 10 for the day and the clean leads were 9. And maybe some of the days it'll be 9, 10, and it'll vary a little bit so you have an idea. But what we're looking to do here is we're looking to start to get some percentages so that you have a layer of predictability. When the business owner can go to sleep at night knowing that they have a pulse on the data, knowing that they have a handle, you can start to make those smarter marketing decisions. You can start to run certain scenarios. So if column 1 has the date, you go all the way down for the month. The next column, again, is going to be those leads that ideally are scrubbed of junk. Now, we're not scrubbing it immensely just yet. The column after that is going to be connected with. And that has to be not just phone calls. That's a huge thing that I continue to see kind of day in and day out of people saying, well, tried calling, nobody answered, junk lead, I'm done with it. And they move on to the next. Most people don't want a phone call. They want an email or they want a text. So I want to know how many people you were able to get a hold of via one of those methods. Okay? And we're not getting to the granular level yet of each individualized person. This is a high-level report that is simply having you and or your team tracking everything daily so that you can get a pulse on the data, so that your team can show you the data. These are the number of leads that came in. These are the number of people that we connected to. And from there, the data can vary a little bit based on whatever your sales process is. So for me, I would say leads that came in, people that we connected with, discovery calls booked, strategy sessions booked, proposals sent, won or lost. And I can track that every single day of the year. How many leads came in? How many people did we connect to? So if you had 10 leads and you were able to connect with 5 of those leads, that means 50%. Now, as you go through the month, maybe your percentages are going to vary, but you can get an average. And these averages allow you to start to build that level of predictability, that level of kind of reliability. Okay, great. Well, on Monday, we only were able to get a hold of 50% of people, but the next day it was 80%, 70, 20, and the numbers vary. But the average that we realized is during 30 days, we had 100 leads that came in and we got a hold of 70. So 70% of the leads we were able to connect with. And from there, you can build out the rest of your percentages. If you're in landscaping, maybe that's how, of those 70, how many were you able to give a quote to? And then how many ended up signing up? And at the end, you can reverse engineer all the data. 100 leads, connected with 70. We did 50 houses that we were able to give a quote to, and 25 of those people signed up, or 10, whatever the number is. But now you can go from lead all the way down to won or lost. And you build this data month after month after month after month so that you have that level of predictability, and you can see the ebbs and the flows, and you can have that data to benchmark. But you can now have that level of confidence that, yeah, if we invest $5,000 to get 100 leads, our team is going to get a hold of 70 people. And ultimately, we're going to close on average 25. So from 100 leads, we're closing 25. So 25% of the leads. And we invested $5,000. And depending on what you're selling, that could be good or that could be bad. 25% close is a pretty solid number. Maybe $5,000 for 100 leads isn't a great number. But again, every industry varies exponentially, and it varies, all over the boards. But if those 25 deals were $3,000 to $5,000 hardscape deals, or every single one of those deals was worth, let's call it at least $1,000, you invested $5,000 to get $25,000. After labor, okay, great. You ended up making $10,000, for example. If you have the data, your team can show you the data that gives you the levels of predictability so that you can make smart marketing decisions. If you're in e-commerce, same type of data. How many website visitors? The difference with that is you want to look at how many ended up purchasing, abandoning, visiting. There's obviously different data, but ultimately at the end, how many website visitors equals X amount of purchases? And how much of that traffic cost you to get? And is the math positive or negative? But there's one area that people forget time and time and time again. And this is where the conversation could go in a few different directions, but I will keep it at least basic for today. That initial customer coming in a perfect world, that covers your acquisition cost so that you're not in the negative on whatever you invested. So that $5,000 that you invested, in a perfect world, you're at least making that $5,000 back. So if that means that you need to sell at least $10,000 worth of jobs to be even, then you're even, because I'm factoring in labor and gas and materials. But ideally, you're even. But what people forget is that lifetime value of a customer. And they make those decisions again, even though they have the data. Geez, so that person, they did do a spring cleanup, but they also did a $20,000 landscaping job. They hired us to mow their lawn. They referred 10 other people in the neighborhood. So yeah, that one person, that paid for our marketing budget for 6 months. You have to think about that lifetime value. And that is when you start to get more granular. So this report that we talked about, the show me the data, that is the granular stuff that boils up into this report. It's the data all the way through and through. It's going from leads to won or lost, website traffic to won or lost, conversations to won or lost. It's that high-level report that you can make strategic decisions. The granular stuff underneath the different layers, well, let me look at every one of those customers that came through. Let me look at all of the leads that came in. Let me dig deeper and look at marketing sources. And was this type of traffic better than that website traffic? Did this person buy one thing and that was a Facebook lead, but all of our Google leads, they're spending 10 times more than the Facebook leads? Did our Reddit leads, are they investing 100 times what the average person is? So that you can get a lot more granular, but your team needs to be able to show you the data. Core, the main message that I'm trying to push on you today is that either your marketing agency, your team that you have in house, or if it's just your one man or one woman band, if you're not looking at the data every single day, you're going to be making bad decisions. You're going to be staying in scarcity because you're going to have that level of fear that, well, I don't really know if things are moving in the right direction. I feel like they're moving in the right direction. Great. Show me the data. Then I can tell you that when I ask for the data, more often than not, the business on the other side cannot show me the data. They just can't. Show me all the leads that came in and show me all the activities. I want to see how many calls, how many emails, how many texts. I want to see the tasks. I want to see all of it. And I want to see it tabulated up so that I can just look at a summation. So I can give you a gauge based on what I'm seeing. The summary of all the data for the month, and then as many months back as you can give me. If you start to put more time in data, more time in looking at these numbers, rather than constantly working in the business versus not on the business, you gotta pivot. You've gotta start to move it to where you have that time, even if it's 10 or 15 minutes a day. Update the sheet, get the data to where it rolls up, and then as you start making some smart decisions, you can get more granular and you can start looking at how do we improve that, or that particular ratio, or that number. Can we test this? But you need to start at the basics, get this data together so that your decision-making and your future profitability will be positively impacted. Tune in next week. I've got an insanely special episode for you. I'm going to reveal the newest strategy that we're using within the Dream 100 framework that has not been talked about yet before. Michael Tazzer signing off. Good morning, good afternoon, and good night. Tune in next week.